Good morning, everybody. Why don't we kick things off? I think the folks are headed into the room, so we'll get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Business Support Series webinar. And thank you all for joining us. My name is Patrick Sullivan, and I'm the President and CEO of the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to thank the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors, also known as NSAR, for sponsoring today's event, a very informative event. The pandemic, among other factors, has really shone a spotlight on Halifax as a great place to live. What once was a hidden secret is now out there for the world to know. And now we're seeing people start to take notice from across the province, across the country, and from around the world. And that's contributing to what seems to be a red hot real estate market right now. So we brought in the experts today to talk about buying and selling in today's real estate market. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions for our presenters. And please feel free to type any questions into the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Please address it to panelists. I'm just going to check and see what it says. I don't know that you need to address it to anybody, but if you put things in the chat, you please address it to panelists and attendees so that everyone can see your questions. But Q&A is actually a slightly better place to put them. So I'm pleased today to welcome Donna Malone and Matthew Daphne from the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors, a bit of a mouthful, for today's session to discuss the realities of the local housing market and how to navigate through the home buying and selling process. Donna Malone is a 10-year veteran real estate agent specializing in residential real estate in Lunenburg County. She is a full-time, full-service real estate professional with EXIT Realty Inter Lake in Bridgewater. Donna is also very involved with the real estate industry in Nova Scotia and currently serves as president of the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors. Matthew Daphne has also worked in real estate for the last decade, but in the Halifax area, and works with Domus Realty in Halifax. Along with being a very busy dad of 4 young children, that must make him busy, Matt is currently vice president of the Nova Scotia Association of Realtors. The NSAR is the professional association of realtors in Nova Scotia, representing over 1,700 members who subscribe to a high standard of service and a strict code of ethics. Welcome, Donna and Matt. Sorry, I'm saying welcome because I have another screen up here with your pictures on it. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. And Donna, I think I'll invite you to kick us off with a quick overview of the current market, and then we'll jump right into Q&A.
Thank you, Patrick. It certainly has been an interesting year in real estate. The effects of living through the COVID pandemic has made things a little bit more complicated. And I'm just sharing the information for April year over year. And when you look at these numbers, you can see that home sales are up 159% across Nova Scotia compared to April of 2020. And I would just, sort of take that with a grain of salt. If you go back to a year ago, April, we were shut down. We're probably about 6 weeks into the first lockdown we had, which really put a pause on everything, and real estate was no exception. So this year, those numbers represent, for the most part, sales that were done prior to the latest lockdown that we experienced through April. So I think you're going to see the percentage of differences change a little bit as we go into May and June, because a year ago, that was when the market started coming back online, and we certainly saw a big bump in the activity in the market, and and the prices in the market, and general activity. It was a time when people started understanding that they could, if they were able to work remotely, they really could live just about anywhere. And people were starting to turn their attention to Nova Scotia. So I think all of that has contributed to what we're seeing, today. So certainly the market is up, prices are up. Inventory is still coming to the market. We are seeing, you know, new listings, probably more than we've seen in other years, but we also have more buyers. So the inventory doesn't stay around long, and you know, the months of inventory is low, but the uptake is quick. So you know, that those two things you know, affect each other. So I think that that kind of is just the overview that I would give you on those numbers.
Should we jump over to Matt now?
Sure.
Yeah. Matt, is there anything you wanted to kick us off with, or do you want me to launch right into questions?
I'm sure people have questions, so we can probably just jump right into it.
Okay, great. Okay. Well, I'll start with you then, Matt. So what's happening to the market, and why? I mean, can you explain why the market has gotten so hot in the past 6 to 12 months?
Really, it goes back further than that. I think we noticed in 2019, the big factor was rental prices were going up so much in Halifax, especially, and you know, it was putting a lot of pressure on people. And you know, there was we had people come in talking to us about 40% rent increase, and this was in 2019. And the reality is it got to the point where a mortgage was probably cheaper than some people's rental payments. And there's been a lot of programs in place, like the down payment assistance program, and even the federal government has invested in people buying homes. So the opportunity to buy homes was there. And really, in around mid 2019 was when we started to see competitiveness in the market with multiple offers on homes in certain areas, just sort of, you know, really grew in value because of the demand. There was a lot of buyers sort of injected into the housing market because of the scarcity of rentals. And you know, then fast forward to fall of 2019, we had the center plan come into place, where property values increased overnight just by the other options you had with your property. You know, whether it was to develop something new or add secondary units to your home. So people just saw their property values increase, or opportunity to buy properties that would increase value. You know, fast forward to the pandemic, and then I think when a lot of people were at home for, you know, 6 weeks, living your financial advisor's dream, not eating out, saving all your money, you know, they started looking towards home ownership, thinking, well, maybe I don't want to be in this condo or this apartment. I want to have more space. I'm working from remotely anyway, and really just sort of came to this perfect storm of lots of demand for homes. And then as the bubble occurred, the Atlantic bubble last year, and sort of the rest of the world was looking at us enjoying our summer. Personally, I loved my return. I hadn't been to PEI since I was a kid. The ability to go there, and it wasn't very busy. It was amazing. And I think the world took notice and sort of saw how we were living. And you know, think of our fall. We had kids in school, kids playing sports, and people from outside of the province wanted to come here. You know, imagine. You know, we had a lot of freedoms that other places didn't have, so it became a very appealing place. But the reality is, you know, the province has been always a great place to live. And compared to other markets, it's been undervalued. It's much more affordable. So we have a lot of people here that want homes, and a lot of people from away that want homes.
Let me just pick up on, just stay with you for a second, Matt. I want to pick up on something you said, which is the down payment assistance program. How many are there programs for people who want to get their first home? What is the down payment assistance program? Is that like the RRSP withdrawal thing, or is that something different?
No, that's the first time home buyers plan, which is where you could withdraw your RSPs without paying the penalty basically on your income tax, as long as you're repaying it. No, the down payment assistance program actually started with an initiative at NSAR. The members at NSAR and Suzanne Gravel, one of our board of directors, or regional directors, they were part of the program. And what it does is it allows people who make a certain income apply for mortgages, and the government will basically give you, or they'll loan you the 5% down, interest free. So it was a great leg up for people to get into the housing market.
Oh, great. Okay. I must admit I was unaware of that. So I see both Paige and Kayla listening intently, both put up a link to the down payment assistance program for everyone. So that's great. Thanks very much. Donna, back to you. So, and Matt kind of alluded to this, that folks are coming from away. Perhaps where are buyers coming from right now?
Well, Pat, we're seeing, the biggest part of the market is still buyers from Nova Scotia, purchasing Nova Scotia property, selling Nova Scotia property. But we are seeing people from out of province moving to the area. And by far, I think most of them are coming from Ontario. But we also do have quite a number of people moving here from BC and also from Alberta. I think those would be kind of like the top volumes of out of province buyers that we're seeing. But we're getting buyers from all provinces moving here. So, and the international, we used to have, I think, a larger international buyer market than we've had in the last couple of years. It seems to that the market within Canada has, the buyers have kind of stepped up as the international buyers have perhaps not been as active, and there's lots of economic reasons worldwide for that, I think.
Right. I remember hearing this, earlier in the year. I heard, oh, well, people are coming from Ontario. People are coming from Ontario. I must admit, at that point, I kind of thought it was a bit of a myth. I've seen now people from Ontario arrive. In fact, a new neighbor next to me arrived from Oakville, Ontario. So yeah, you're seeing the numbers, I guess. Let me ask you a different question though, Donna, and that is, you're in, if I can say you're in LaHaye right this second. Your office is in Bridgewater. You obviously kind of look along the South Shore or work along the South Shore. Compared to Halifax, what's it like now in, let's say, less urban markets versus, let's say, the major urban market?
Well, I think there's definitely a difference. The market across the province has improved or increased. It's certain, like, smaller communities like Bridgewater and Lunenburg and Mahone Bay and Chester. So the smaller communities are probably seeing more of a Halifax-like type of scenario where there are multiple offers and that sort of thing. Not on everything, but in certain price categories. But then you move outside those communities into the more rural areas, and the prices have gone up. More properties are selling, but not to the level of increase that you're seeing in Halifax. And certainly we're getting our share of out of province buyers in the small communities on the South Shore and in the rural communities. And in fact, in some of the rural communities, we're seeing families with young children move in, and they're kind of they're rejuvenating some of those communities, keeping some of the community schools open because they're bringing young children with them. So I think that would kind of be, sort of an overview of what's happening across the province.
Yeah, no, and I think that's wonderful, actually. That is wonderful that, that people are coming with children. It's nice if, people are coming and they're old like me, but it's probably better if they have young children to, as you say, re-energize the community and fill the schools and those kinds of things. I had an agent tell me that they worked in Shelburne, Nova Scotia, and they told me that they had 2 people who bought homes in Shelburne because they lived in Shelburne, Ontario. And when they typed in the search for Shelburne, they mistakenly got Shelburne, Nova Scotia, and suddenly went, oh my goodness, look at the prices here. And they ended up moving to Shelburne, Nova Scotia. I hope it's a true story. I don't know. I don't know if it is. But
It's a cute story for sure.
it is a cute story. We'll have to go down and knock on everybody's door in Shelburne. Matt, I mean, is this a housing bubble? Is that what we're seeing? And is it sustainable?
I don't really like the term bubble for our market because when you look around our the country, whenever people talk about housing bubbles, they talk about Vancouver and Toronto, and that term's been thrown around for at least half a decade now. And the reality is any area that has the infrastructure and opportunities for people to work, prices are going to go up on homes. Demand for homes is going to go up. And Halifax has really had so much growth in terms of people investing in business here. There's a story of one of the province buyers bringing 30 jobs with them. I believe Sydney's saying they have like 6 new large businesses going to the region. Plus we've had good initiatives here for a long time. With COA and the Cove sort of taking off in Dartmouth. There's opportunity for people. Like a lot of when we talk about out of province buyers, sometimes we're not even noting the fact that there are Nova Scotians who left. My generation coming out of high school or university, people left. People went to bigger markets to get jobs, and now with the opportunity to work from home or just more opportunity here, they're coming back, and that's all contributing to growth. And really, is the rate of this growth sustainable? It's been extreme, especially this year. I don't know if it'll grow at this rate, but I believe that growth is going to continue in the city. And really the way it works is, you've got people that are after a certain type of homes in a certain area, but as the prices increase and might be out of their budget, it moves to the next neighborhood. And we're seeing some neighborhoods that just keep going up and up in price, and other ones that sort of hit a certain point, and then you sort of next thing the next neighborhood over is sort of increasing value. It's a great from a seller's perspective, it's a great opportunity.
So we actually had a question here, and you've just kind of alluded to that or kind of went around it a little bit, but the question from the anonymous attendee was, are there any signs that the price trend, which is almost 40%, as Donna said, will that continue to increase? Are we going to see another 40% in the next 6 months? Or more specifically, when will there be a buyer's market?
Well, I don't think anyone here has a crystal ball, but 40% seems high to anyone. I don't think, you wouldn't go to your investor and expect 40%. It's been great for people that have gotten in early, but at the same time, the areas that are growing, the prices justify, like the value's there. Like we find, we have a lot of discussion around the office about, did you see how much this sold for? And then, people are always saying, well, it's a great house. It's a good area. There's places that like Eastern Passage has grown, exponentially since the pandemic began, but they have a great school going in there as well. There's areas of Sackville that are going up in price quite significantly, but you've got major development in Indigo Shores with $1 million lakefront homes right off the highway. There's a lot of justification for what's going on, I find.
Yeah.
Can I weigh in on that, Pat?
Yeah, please do, Don.
Yeah, just on the sustainability side, I think the sustainability is definitely going to be linked to the economy. And, when you look at some of the things that are happening, first of all, a lot of people who are coming are bringing their jobs with them. And some of them, as Matt mentioned, are bringing jobs for other people as well. But then there's also economic growth in various areas of the province. Here on the South Shore, Michelin has an expansion to their facility, and I think it's not an expansion to the existing facility, but I think it's actually they're building another facility. And the numbers we're seeing from projections of how many good paying full-time jobs that's going to bring to the area is between depending who you talk to, between 400 and 600. well, you bring another 400 to 600 families in here, we might be seeing the same kind of thing that's going on in Halifax in terms of you know, competition for homes. So we really do need to see more starts for new building to accommodate, you know, there's going to be growth in the economy, and we're going to need more housing. And I think that this is the time that people should really be focusing on that. Like, how are we going to house the people who are having difficulty now finding housing, plus more people coming into the province because of some of these economic factors that are on the horizon, or that have started, or that are in the planning phase. So the sustainability is going to be there for a period of time. How long? Well, there's the crystal ball that Matt was talking about.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a combination of factors. So, you know, for a long time, Nova Scotia has been in population decline. We're now actually seeing an increase in population, and the pandemic, I think, has brought people who have the ability to work from home to various communities right across the province. It's a wonderful thing, and I think Matt said quite a while ago, you know, that I actually believe, and people, you know, watching may disagree. So anxious to see if you put something in the chat or the Q&A, but I actually believe Halifax has been undervalued for a long time, because although, you know, we look at salaries and we say, gee, things are up a lot, many salaries in Nova Scotia are top, you know, are, if they're government salaries, they're federal government salaries, the salaries are the same across the country. They're the same in Toronto as they are in Halifax. If they're, you know, armed forces salaries, they're the same in Halifax as they are in other markets. And Halifax, or many places in Nova Scotia, have had lower housing prices. And I think there has been a bit of a catch up, you know, happening. But we have seen interest rates. So Matt, I'll come to you on interest rates. Do you think, I mean, we're seeing interest, my first house, when I bought my first house, my interest rate was 13.5%, which shows how old I am. And I just bought a new house, and my mortgage rate now is, I think it's, you know, one of those open things, but it's like 1.43, which is astounding. What's going to happen? I mean, is this all going to end if interest rates go up, Matt, or?
No, I don't believe so. You know, interest rates are, you know, when they brought in the stress test a few years ago, that was sort of to insulate mortgages. You know, if you're, you know, borrowing at a 2, you're qualifying at a 4. And that was to basically, you know, help insulate the market so that if, you know, interest rates did go up, it wouldn't be drastic. I don't think anybody's going variable right now with the rates are, you know, why wouldn't you fix it in at, you know, 1.4 or, you know, 1.6 I've heard people getting. So, you know, I don't, there's no, it can't go lower, but it will be a slow rise. My expectation with that is it won't be much different than when they brought, for, you know, great examples, when they brought in the stress test, and people had to, it took people that had pre-qualified for a certain amount down sort of a price bracket. And it did create a bit of a lull in the market for about, you know, 4 to 6 weeks. You know, because there was disappointed buyers. They were looking at homes, you know, in a certain price range, and then they were brought down to a different price range, and they weren't looking at the same quality of home. But it then quickly picked up again as, you know, as you know, the sort of the next group of buyers came along with the current rate. And, you know, when we're talking about interest rates raising, we're also talking about, you know, the end of the pandemic, borders opening up. A lot more of the sort of out of country buyers that had been here previously would expect to return, as they were, you know, so heavy in our market from, you know, 2013 through 2018. And, you know, we've always been known as a great place to invest money. I've spoken to people from, you know, out of country and, you know, out of province, and, you know, people talk about Halifax in other places as a good place to buy property. And you know, look at our student population. There's so many international students here because of our reputation. And a lot of times, you know, their parents are looking to invest here. And why not? If their student's going to be here for 4 to 7 years in some cases, they're looking at purchasing a property and having them live in it.
Wow. So Donna, to kind of come back to that a little bit, and I think you mentioned, that we are seeing some new construction. For the attendees, should they be worried? I mean, are things overvalued? And we've talked a little bit about that. But as new houses or new condos are developed, do you think we'll see a drop as things go on?
Well, before I get into that, I think I'd just like to say that the stress test is going to take an increase on June 1st. And so I think what happens is people in certain price ranges, it affects them in lower price ranges, affects them more. Number one, as Matt said, it means that people in all price ranges are going to be looking at a purchase value lower than they would have looked at in May. But the other thing that happens is that if they want to get into those the houses that they wanted prior to the stress test increase, they're going to have to pause their buying plan while they save more money to increase their down payment. And currently, we're in a situation where people don't have a lot of things to spend their money on. People are saving more, and so that's one thing that we'll see happen in June when that stress test changes again. It will create a little bit of turbulence for some people in some parts of the market. But as far as, as I think the markers are there for the market to continue to go up. As we mentioned earlier, I don't think we're going to see the percentage rises that we've been seeing, but we will, I think we will see prices increase. And no doubt there have been situations where people may have purchased, above value, and they may have to hold on to their properties for a period of time while the market catches up to them if they want to sell it. But I think that overall, I think we're going to see a strong market continuing, and prices are, I think, will still there's still room for increases. As you said, the market was undervalued, and people started kind of coming in 2019 and taking advantage of those prices, and then with COVID, that changed things again. So I think we're going to see some continued growth in price, and hopefully we see a growth in housing starts and rental accommodations, et cetera. I know as fast as they can build apartment buildings in Bridgewater, they have waiting lists to go in them. And I'm sure it's probably the same in Halifax.
Wow. Well, I hope there's somebody from the city on the listening in today. And I hope, maybe from the development department, and maybe they can, approve some of those new homes a little more quickly. To get, whether it's condos or new homes in there. So Matt, back to you with the increase in housing prices, and you must see this in Halifax, I guess. Although, as Donna said, in her area, it's happening as well. With the average mortgage approval that people have right now, how do they deal with that? So if they've got a mortgage approval for this much, and then the house goes for above asking, suddenly they need this much, but they don't have approval for that. Is there a way to deal with that, or is it just you better get a bigger mortgage approval so you can offer more? Or
well, that's a tricky one. If it comes down to your means at that point. If you can get in, really you want to have a good realtor to sort of guide you through, especially with the bidding wars we're seeing, on the peninsula, especially, where you really have to evaluate each individual home to sort of to get an idea of where it might sell, because each one, we talk about numbers and statistics and average prices, but each home is very unique in what it affords. And in some cases, people have maybe stretched a little beyond their means, but with the option to build a new in-law suite. And if you're in the Halifax core, you can get a student rental. There's opportunity there in terms of what people will do as interest rates rise. It may influence what they buy or where they buy. But interestingly enough, when the first stress test came into place, and so I think the interest rates at the time were around 2.5, and they're basically qualified at 4.5. Well, private lenders got in and basically said, well, we can approve people at 3.5, and they can still get something more than what they were. They're just paying a slightly higher interest rate.
I mean, you mentioned kind of the in-law or the student apartment. I mean, there's been some changes in Halifax, particularly with additional units or in-law units that you can put on your property, or apartments and that sort of thing. Should people be thinking about that as they buy their first house, let's say?
Well, it depends. It all depends on what your goal is, and I always promote home ownership. It's something that's changed my life. Just owning my first home, building equity, and the thing with a home that's a little different than investments is you can always live in it. If there's greater opportunity to rent it, then you can rent it. If you can develop it into something more, that's a great opportunity. It all depends on who you are and what what your starting point is. We've had numerous younger people that are buying 3-bedroom homes because they've got 2 roommates at their apartment now that'll just rent from them. So there's opportunity with home ownership in that perspective. And when we kind of look at those features as mortgage subsidies,
right.
having roommates, having renters.
Right. Okay. Donna, should there be, could there be better regulations to control the market to make it more affordable for people as we go forward?
Well, trying to control the market, I think, in some sense, is a bit of a fool's game. It's a free market system, and governments have been notorious for bringing in measures that they thought would help, that in the end actually harm or hurt people, and not equally across the board. Often the people who they're trying to help are the people who get caught in the unintended consequences of poorly thought out policy. So I think we have to be really careful. We definitely don't want to see people in a situation where they bite off more than they can chew. And then when their mortgage comes to renew, interest rates have gone up and they can't afford to renew their mortgage. And they either have to sell or, pay quite a bit more than they were paying before. So there's certainly some things that you want to do to protect people from factors that are outside their control. But I think trying to, cool down the market, governments have tried various things, and they've not worked well in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is very, very hard to regulate because there's so many variables. And I think sometimes people look at it and say, well, there's easy solutions, but housing comes from demand. So it comes from the number of people. It comes from the interest rates that are available. It comes from the jobs in the area. There's so many things that go into housing. I think that regulating one thing, which is what they try to do, which is kind of salaries, and it seems to me to be a very difficult thing to do. I should note that Paige and Kayla have, well, maybe Paige more than Kayla, have put up some additional information in the chat about mortgage programs or first-time home buyers incentive programs, the federal one, and I think also the federal RRSP program on how you can access some more money there. And Kayla says we'll include those in the links as we send them out to everybody as well. So Matt, we see prices going up in Halifax. Sorry, and I'm saying provincially, really, right across the board. Is it a good time to buy a house?
Yeah, I think so. Like I just said, personally, home ownership has, led to a lot of good things in my life. And, it's a great investment, like, so I sort of alluded to this already. You can always live in your home, if even if the, you know, interest rates raise and, there's a downturn in the market, you can always live in your home. You can rent your home. There, like, you have a lot more advantages with a home than, without. And really, right now, with the interest rates as low as they are, all of the value is in your home. Like, you're paying very little to the bank. So, when people see home prices, your price, all the value is in the home, which is a great way. When I had that sort of explained to me, think of, paying 13% interest rate years ago, the value, the increase in value now, in many ways sort of reflects the lowering of the interest rate, especially in the Halifax market.
Yeah.
So I do think it's a good time to buy, especially in Halifax. We're really growing, and not just Halifax. We're seeing like tremendous growth in Dartmouth, Sackville, Eastern Passage has certainly become quite popular. It's a great time to own a house.
Yeah, and sorry, being a guy who's probably owned 10 houses over my lifetime, because I moved from Halifax to Toronto and back from Toronto to Halifax and then from Halifax back to Toronto, and then in two different areas. Anyway, so it goes on and on and on. I think what I would say is it's always a good time to buy a house. But if you want to get your money out next year, it could be a problem. But if you want to get your money out over time, it's always a good time to buy a house, because I think what we've seen in Canada has been a steady increase in home prices over time. So, Donna, do you agree with me, or I just want to make sure I'm saying the right thing?
Yeah, I do agree with you. A few years ago, when it was more of a buyer's market here on the South Shore and throughout the province, I would recommend to people that if they were buying a home, then they needed to stay in that home for at least 5 years if they wanted to be able to sell it and pay the expenses of the sale and have some equity left over to move into the next home. That they were looking at, definitely at least a 5-year plan. With equity going up as fast as it's going up now and interest rates as low as they are, perhaps people can achieve that in less than 5 years. But I think, your comment that over time, it will work out to your advantage over time. And the period of that time is going to fluctuate based on market conditions and interest rates and that sort of thing. But yes, I think that real estate is a good investment. Here on the South Shore, we're still seeing sales of properties around the $100,000, just over $100,000 range. So not everything is going to cost you, $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000. So there's still a lot of variety in the price point, and and the home and the location that you are able to get at that price point.
Well, Donna, you got to put your email up there in the chat so that people can find those $100,000 homes.
They're all on the MLS. We make that information public.
Okay, all right, that's good. Okay, so there we go. Realtor.ca, everybody, to kind of take a look. That's for sure. That's great. Matt, maybe back to you. We talked a little bit about interest rates and things. Are banks, is each bank different, or are they? Do you have to reach out to each one separately, or do they all have the same home buying program? It's probably a little bit different for every one of them, is it?
I really don't speak too much to how the banks work. Like, I often, when I'm advising people, if they've had a long-standing relationship with their present bank, that's usually where I tell them to go first, because a good relationship. We're Nova Scotians. We love good relationships with businesses. So if your bank's been sort of taking good care of you, see them about your mortgage. But there's the internet's a great place to find information about interest rates and lending practices. So it's always good to explore, but in terms of how each one operates, that can boil down to the individual level. So.
Okay. And I know you said a few moments ago, you know, that sometimes there's private lenders who will give you money as well. So, you know, I'm not advocating for anything, but if you're looking, you should look high and low. So you should look at banks, you should look at mortgage brokers, you should look at everybody to kind of, you know, make your best decision. Donna, we're in a time of COVID, and although there's traffic going by behind me, there's no traffic going down to the South Shore right now from Halifax. Can I still look at a house in the South Shore? Can you help us with that, or can somebody help us with that?
Well, currently, your real estate agent could go to a location, a property that you're interested in, and they could do a virtual tour for you through FaceTime or some other technology that you may be comfortable using. And you know, you have the option, and a lot of people are taking the option of buying based on virtual tours. And there are a lot of people who walk into their house the first time and they already own it. So that is definitely going on, you know, and right now, realtors are allowed to, you know, cross municipal lines to do their work, but buyers are not. So if a buyer is looking at a property or wants to see a property that's in their own municipality, then you could certainly talk to your realtor about, you know, whether that's an option and to get in to see something in person. But if you are looking at something that's not in the municipality that you're in, or if you are an out of province buyer, you can't come into the province right now to view properties. But the, you know, there is, I understand we're going to see a plan on Friday from Dr. Strang for, you know, what the reopening looks like. So I don't think it's going to be very long before that's going to change, and people will be able to cross municipal lines to look at properties. And perhaps as a period of time after that, people will be able to come into the province again to view properties in person. But, you know, currently COVID has got us locked down to a degree.
And is there any liability? Someone has asked, is there any liability with a virtual tour? It says if something isn't shown or missed by the realtor, but I suppose it's up to the individual. I mean, you can still do a home inspection with a local home inspector, I suppose, or how would that work?
Well, home inspectors have the same right to work as other people who, you know, who are working. So home inspectors are allowed to cross municipal lines to do their job. And certainly a virtual tour on its own would probably not be the smartest move to close. And you certainly would want to hire a professional to go in there and advise you on the condition of the building. If you're buying a rural property, the condition of the septic system, the quality of the water from the well. You know, you still want to do all that due diligence that you hire professionals to do for you. And when it comes to issues of liability, I would refer those questions to my lawyer.
Right. Okay. Good answer. We're running out of time, so I just wanted to get people to put down any final questions they may have, but I still have more that people have forwarded. Matt, maybe I'll come to you with this one, which is more valuable in the same community, a 3-bedroom house with minimal property, or a 3-bedroom house with 1 acre of land on it? Maybe that's too obvious a question. Is it better to have land?
It all depends, really. You know, if that 1 acre is outside of the city, needs a septic, yeah, I'd take the acre.
Yeah.
But no, you know, land is always good. Like, you know, obviously in the city, you know, your larger lot is probably, you know, 8,000 square feet. You might find would be a substantial city lot. But you know, with what people can do with their properties now, like if you were looking to put a carriage home, you can have in an acre of land is great. But really, I think I found in the last year, people are looking for space. They want to, you know, look at us right now. We're home. Kids aren't in school. You know, they're encouraged to sort of stay apart from one another. So a backyard to play in is right now is invaluable. So really, it all depends on people's wants and needs. Like, you know, at the same time, an acre of land might be a nightmare for someone to maintain is not an avid gardener. So in the same community, I'd probably take the acre, but just because there's a little more versatility with it. But really, it's every person is unique in what they're looking for in a home, what they want.
Okay. And Donna, as you're the South Shore person, do waterfront properties still carry a premium price, even if the lot is small and the house needs repair? So it sounds like everything's wrong except the waterfront. Is there still a premium for a waterfront lot?
Yes, I think there is. People. One of the driving forces for a lot of people who move to this area is the waterfront. And Nova Scotia is blessed with an abundance of waterfront. We've got coastline on the ocean. We have rivers, the LaHave River here locally. It's 18 kilometers from the ocean, and you've got homes pretty much all the way up the river. There's no big forested areas. It's all homes, and the lakes, lakefront. So I think that certainly there's lots of waterfront. People are drawn to waterfront. They want waterfront if they can afford it in the amount of money that they can spend. And because we have so much of it, you don't pay the type of premium for waterfront in Nova Scotia that you would pay in Ontario or in BC.
Okay, all right. Well, I think we're running out of questions, so I'm gonna ask Matt if there's any final comments you'd like to make, and then I'll say the same to Donna.
Not too much to say other than for a lot of people that are looking to buy in the market, it can be stressful right now. There's lots of good agents out there to help guide you through it. So it's best to sort of connect with someone, and we've had a lot of good questions today, and people have a lot more that for their own individual needs, and our realtor is a great starting point to sort of help you on your way.
Right.
So thank you, Patrick.
Okay. No, that's great. And Donna, any final comments? Although I have just thought of another question. Can I ask you the other question first, Donna?
Sure.
Okay. So I have friends who are looking in a hot market, and they're saying, and I hope you don't take this the wrong way, they're saying, I don't need a realtor right now because I can sell so fast. But I say to them, but don't you want to sell for more? So, I mean, I guess I'm kind of, what do you think of that comment? And how do you deal with that comment? I'm sure you've heard it before.
Yes, and it certainly has kind of a sexy appeal to people who are sellers. The National Association of Realtors has done a lot of research over the years on the difference in prices paid to sellers represented by a realtor versus sellers representing themselves. And the data suggests overwhelmingly that when you sell with a realtor, even when you remove the costs of selling through a realtor, the sellers still end up with more money in their pocket than if they try to go down that road on their own, simply because of the negotiating skills of your realtor, the knowledge of the market, that the type of relationships that the realtors are building with their buyers to bring to you. If you're not represented by a realtor, that kind of body of knowledge about what motivates buyers, that sort of thing, is lost to you. So I would really recommend that. Although it's a nice fanciful thought, but I think in the end you'll be better represented by using a professional realtor, and you will in the end have a better outcome for your price as well.
Yeah, and I had a comment here, and perhaps rightfully so, for someone who's looking for a house, their concern is selling for more is actually a problem for those who are looking for homes now. But I hear the person saying that, I really do, because they want to get a house. But I think what I've also heard from you, Matthew, and from you, Donna, is that real estate and buying a home is a good long-term investment. So getting in may be hard, but once you're in, it is that good long-term investment. And I know it's not easy. I mean, trust me, I'm the guy that You know, when I had my 13.5% mortgage, I borrowed money from one of my friends who was a policeman to actually pay the help for the down payment. You know, and then I sold it within 6 months, maybe 8 months, and was not able to recover my costs and had to pay him anyway. So I've had my ups and downs, you know, but overall, you know, real estate has been very, very, very good to me. I'm just going to say as well, we've had a few folks say in the chat that they're actually new agents and that this webinar has been very helpful for them. So that's good. And Renata also said very helpful. So thank you for that. As someone else just said, like an investment planner, you hire a realtor. You know, so you know, if you want a specialist, then you get somebody who's actually in the business. I think that's fair. So Donna, back to you with any final thoughts as we head away.
Well, one of the things that we haven't talked about, which is definitely a factor in the housing prices, is the cost to build. You know, lumber is in scarce supply. Building materials are in scarce supply. When COVID shut down mills across North America, and some of them didn't come back online, and the ones that have come back online are, you know, sort of racing to try and now meet the demand that's there for building supplies. People who found themselves sitting at home with time on their hands decided that they were finally going to do those DIY projects that they had been thinking about for maybe for years. And so the materials to that were available were quickly bought up last year, and as a result of a, you know, shortage of supply, prices have gone up, and that is going to affect you know, new builds for sure. So in terms of prices going up, I don't think anything that's being built new, the prices are not going to go anywhere but up for probably a long time. And you know, and the lumber industry, the building supplies industry, is definitely a big factor in that part of the market, the price increases that we're seeing and will continue to see. So yeah, and you know, and that's not a function of anything. I don't think that the governments can bring in any regulation to improve. But I would like to say thank you for the webinar and the opportunity to talk about these important real estate issues. I would encourage people to build a relationship with a realtor, and you will be well served by somebody who has professional skills and education and knows their community. So I would say, you know, kudos to all the realtors out there who are working so hard on behalf of their clients.
Well, and sorry, I just want to echo that and remind everybody, although you guys probably don't want to hear this, if you guys just can plug your ears when I say this, you know, the reality is you can work with a realtor for a very long time and they'll work really hard for you, and they don't actually get paid until you're satisfied, you know, which means you get a house. So so they're willing to work an awful long time and awfully hard to keep you happy. So I would encourage you to, as Donna just said, get to know your local realtor, and it sounds terrible to say take advantage of them, but work with them to encourage them to find you the home that you need and desire. And I see Liz is now joined, so I'll say hi to my realtor who's now joined us on the line there. So anyway. Hi, thanks very much, everybody. Let me just go back to my Q&A. What am I supposed to say now? Oh gosh, see, I flipped over too many pages and I'm lost. Let's see, I have to cancel that and get rid of that. And here we are. Oh look, sadly we're out of time. So I'm gonna wrap it up there. Thank you very much, Donna and Matt, for your time today. And thank you again to NSAR for supporting today's event. And thank you to everyone for joining us and asking the great questions. Very informative. Join us this afternoon for a webinar on wellness and tomorrow on mental readiness and leadership. And this webinar was recorded and will be available to everyone shortly on YouTube, and you'll get an email telling you that. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon, Matthew and Donna.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.